man boobs.
Okay, let me go ahead and do this.
Oh, it's already recording?
Yeah.
Ah!
Hi, everyone. Let me get a little more here. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Zoeats podcast, where every week we freaking eat. Okay, you can cuss on here. I'm sorry, I'll be
Okay.
a little nervous on camera, but today we are at Brach. We're at Brach, this really cute restaurant in the 16th, with my friend who lives way on the other side of the country, Chris, in the 16th. And yeah, we're here. We're eating lunch. We already got our food together. We're out on a terrace because it was so busy inside, but we got a nice little salad to share. I got a little side of tuna, and then you want to hand me the other thing? We got bread, just a little appetizer, something light for the girls. And I got my wine. He has his beer. Cheers. And we're here and we're ready. I don't know if this is going to be our first podcast or the second one, because I am not sure in the order in which these are going to go up. So if this is the first one, welcome. Hi. A little bit of a schmeal about this podcast is every week we'll go to a new restaurant. I'll have a new friend, and we'll just talk about whatever's on our mind. We'll give a little advice and a recommendation, and then we'll rate the food. And we're here to eat. We're here to look good. We're here to be young and sexy. Yeah. Anyways, I'm with Chris, and we'll give him a little breakdown of the outfit, and he'll do a little introduction of who he is.
Wait, so I should do the breakdown of the outfit?
Yeah.
So for the outfit, I have Christian Dior sunglasses, women's collection. I'm wearing a vintage diesel sweater, pre-Glenn Martin's, and then some Acne Studios trousers and Balenciaga sneakers.
Okay, cute. And who are you, Chris?
I'm an American expat in Paris. I'm originally from Austin, Texas, but I've been in Paris for about 6 years now. I originally was here to study philosophy and history at undergrad, but now I've graduated and I'm currently a master's student at Parsons, Paris, studying fashion theory and curation.
Sorry, I got a little sidetracked. I'm hungry. Cool. That's very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Chris is literally one of the smartest, coolest people I know, so I knew he'd be perfect to have on here.
Low bar.
Not a low bar. Literally, like, it's a high bar, high expectations. But I did forget to say what I'm wearing. I'm just wearing a vintage shirt, a t-shirt or a tank top from wherever, a vintage plaid skirt, and you can't see, but my Prada boots. And sorry, for those who are just audio only, I told you where everything was from, so don't even worry about that. But yeah, vintage leather jacket. I feel cute. I feel chic. The lady, just before we got in here, we were doing a lot of background noise today, but the lady who was, we were looking at jewelry just outside they have a little pop-up, I guess, in the lobby. And she was telling me she liked my rings. And one of her slogans is you can tell someone's personality from their rings. And so Chris wears a ton of rings.
I do, usually.
And he's his little Lone Star. He's the one in my Snapchat stories you can always see Lone Star with. And then me, I have my rings as well. So we're feeling pretty cute. We're feeling pretty hot stuff. We're on a terrace. We got the whole thing to ourselves.
Exactly.
We're looking good. We're feeling sexy. Anyway, so getting right into it now that we've done the little introductions, we said what we want to say. I was just kind of wanted to talk about, what did you do this week? I know you were on vacation, but
I was on vacation. I went to Catania, Sicily for about 3 days. And then afterward, we flew straight to Athens. And we spent about 6 days there. It was so gorgeous. My philosophy degree absolutely just jumped right out. It was so amazing just to see all the ancient Greek monuments, and it was so lovely. The weather was perfect, unlike here in Paris where it's still 60 degrees in June, which is not very summer vibes. It's not making me feel too hot, sexy, and fresh, I'll be honest. But we gotta do what we gotta do.
Yeah, no, this weather has been really making me depressed. I should be in booty shorts right now.
I know. I should
complaining
be on a
about
boat.
the AC. Yeah.
I need to be on a boat with 2 bottles in each hand.
With some random French guy and enjoying life.
Let me tell you.
No, literally right now, it's actually miserable.
It's pre-Olympics nonsense, dreary weather, and on top of the same old nonsense that Paris is already known for. So
yeah,
we're roughing it out here.
Literally roughing it. Yeah, no, and it's supposed to rain. It looks like it's gonna rain. I don't know. You guys can't tell right now, but the fact that I'm wearing a leather coat with a lining, is insane. In July or in June,
And
end
it's
of June,
already, it's officially summer.
it's actually summer. This is the first day of
Mm-hmm.
summer.
Mm-mm. It's it's chilly.
No, yeah, and for what? For what?
And for
Literally for
what?
what? But yeah, sometimes I was just saying, I was talking to Chris because like this is the first time I've sat down like all morning, and just been running around busy, and I'm grateful to be busy in this way. But um, just like lately, I've been kind of going through like sometimes I feel like life has been happening to me, and Chris has been like the ultimate person of just kind of experiencing life and just kind of
Mm.
letting he lives life. He doesn't let life happen to him, and
Yeah.
so or you don't
Some
let
could
life.
call it coasting. Some could call it just waiting for things to jump out at you.
But no, I think that there's a beauty in the sense that like you you let things you let life happen to you where it's like sometimes like this week in particular I felt like life was happening to me like oh there's another
Yeah.
thing, oh there's another thing, oh this is happening, oh I gotta do this, oh I gotta run around and do this, I gotta do and it's been a lot of like stress and anxiety this
Hmm.
week that I've been trying to like get past. And I don't know, do you seem that way, but sometimes what you seem isn't always what it is. Do you feel oftentimes that that's the case for you, that you just experience life and
I mean, I would say I like to be kind of like a passive observer of life, if that makes sense. Like I don't want to force anything, or I've usually been of the point of view that I don't want to force anything. I want to see what comes. I want to trust that, what I'm manifesting and the dreams that I have are on their way. These days timing can be a bit stressful because at a certain age you're expected to do X, Y, and Z. And so I think,
mind you Chris is only 24, 25.
I'm 25. I just turned 25 a few weeks ago.
Yeah. So at
Hmm.
this age, no.
I mean, I feel, it's like a quarter to 50. And also you think of those like TikTok sisters who are like 15 years old and just like doing Super Bowl commercials. It's like you're expected to kind of have something to show for yourself at this point. It's not, especially coming from an American family, especially coming from a Texas family. At this age, you're really expected to be able to show something for yourself, whether it be like a very like good job or maybe a marriage, having kids. And I guess it's just, there's a little bit of insecurity there about still figuring things out at such an old age, quote unquote, if that makes sense.
Mm, I can see that. I can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel because like you've graduated school, you have your master's, you're clearly someone who wants to be an academic. You want to be an academic. I can see you being a professor or an author or something like that in the future. But for me, for me, I can resonate that with that a lot because like I oftentimes when I'm sitting at home by myself, I'm like, what am I doing? Where am I going? Because for me, like I've had so many pivots in such a
Mm-hmm.
short period of time that it can be. I really resonate with that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to describe it.
Well, it seems like you will, you're very good about taking opportunities as they come and like running with it as far as can be. And then, also when to like move on from those given opportunities when the time comes.
Mm.
Me, I'm kind of like, I have like such a set vision. If something doesn't immediately fit the plan, like I'm just like, I don't know if this is right for me. Like I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing this. And so I think it's like two different fonts of the same existential stress, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Two different ways of coping with it.
Right. I was just talking with someone, I don't know who, it might have been Anais, someone. I'm always on the phone, as you know. But I was just talking with someone and they were basically telling me like, they were like, so you start and stop things a lot. You should really, see things through to the better. And I feel like I am seeing things through, but it doesn't feel like I don't know how to describe it. When you just feel like it's not serving your greater purpose, so you
Hmm.
no longer feel the urge to pursue it.
Yeah.
Like
Well, then is that not seeing it through?
no, because some people are like, oh well, you should go further into it. Like for example, I was working. For those of you who don't know, my whole career has been in sales. I've only been in like B2B sales, whether it was tech or in the fashion industry. That has been my career.
Hmm.
And I was working that tech job. That was cool. I'm grateful for it, but I just felt like it wasn't for me. It wasn't my calling. It wasn't my thing. And it didn't feel happy. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel like it was supposed to be. But my family's like, oh no, you need to be consistent and you need to keep seeing it through. And so all that to say, I was talking with someone on the phone, and they were like, "You need to stop starting and stop things, and you need to stop waiting for that one golden opportunity
Mm-hmm.
because." They are basically explaining like the way you are. You're not gonna be satisfied with just being a lawyer, for example, or
Mm-hmm.
just a doctor. You're gonna be satisfied when you like the thing that you want to do is something that you have to create yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and it's gonna take all these components. But I'm like, okay, so how do I know I've developed these skills enough to be able to do that? And I have my own end goals, but I don't know. You were gonna say something. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no.
Yeah, no. Like you have your own end goal in mind, but you don't necessarily. Perks of being in a restaurant, an actual restaurant,
Surprise guest.
surprise guest. Um, Sorry, what was my train of thought? I was saying,
You were talking about end goals and
yeah, it's not gonna look like straightforward like a lot of people's careers would be. Like you
mm-hmm.
went to school, you don't know what will look like for you in the future, but like this is the path I'm gonna do. Go on until I find
Mm-hmm.
something. For me, it's like it's been kind of like a free fall of like how can I leverage what I've already created for myself,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Um, and I feel like that can be a little bit overwhelming when it comes to life in general.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you resonate with that at all.
I do, and I also think it's as is every generation, we're a victim of the times. And I think the advice that we're given to follow, especially when it comes to following a career path and the best way to put yourself forward and the best way to be successful in what you love, the bar keeps moving, especially, in 2024. What was seen as, an adequate or like an efficient life path or career path, even just 20 years ago, now it's not the same. And so I feel like for us, there's so much learning and so much constant pivoting that it almost feels like, you know, you get to a point where you're almost alienated from the job market because it's just a constant battle of trying to fit what you love into whatever new opportunity has been thrown at you at this
Right.
point, if that makes sense.
Right. And I understand and a lot of people are like, oh, you should develop a hard skill, which I do technically have
Mm-hmm.
as a hard skill, right? Closing deals, making sales, blah blah blah, making money. Cool. That is a hard skill that I've developed, and
Mm-hmm.
I am proud of that. But it doesn't feed me at all, like in the other realms that I need to be fed in. And I'm a very social person. I'm a very social person. I like to interact. I like to be seen, or like to be in certain spaces. But I need that creative output and that
Mm-hmm.
creative whatever. And being in sales, even working in fashion, when I did work in fashion, I did feel so far removed from anything creative or anything like that. Yeah, it looked good on paper, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't.
Wasn't that the thing with the fashion industry in general? Because I've always liked to, since I've been an adult, I've always liked to consider myself a fashionable person, at least compared to my family and peers back in rural Texas. But it was never, especially since moving here, it was never my official thing. I always was, I was the token philosopher and the token historian.
Hmm.
And now that I've actually started, I've spent, officially one whole academic year now studying fashion. I really have found myself surprised, at least with the industry as it currently stands, how uncreative it can make you feel.
Hmm.
It's almost like you feel like you're working in big tech or you feel like you're working for an oil company at some
Right.
points because it's just, you know, if this is supposed to be such an artistic field, how am I still a cog in the machine of just like getting from point A to point B?
So, what like do you consider yourself a fashion person then?
Um, I do and I don't. I consider myself a lover of the craft. I love arts and culture just in general.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think fashion is the art that we wear on our bodies. It's the first display of taste that you see on a person when you meet them. You can see what their vibe is and things like that. And I love that aspect of fashion. I also love the historical aspect of fashion. Fashion, even, I wrote this in my, grad school admissions essay. The
Mm-hmm.
first signs of social stratification, of a hierarchy in society that a lot of anthropologists and historians use is the ancient, I'm probably butchering this, the Sungir children in Siberia,
Mm-hmm.
and their bodies were dated to about a little over 10,000 years ago, but they were buried in these extremely elaborate burial garments. Each of them had over, I think, 10,000 ivory beads
Wow.
on them.
Wait, I know what you're talking about.
And each of especially for the time period, each of those beads would have taken about like 2 hours of extremely skilled human labor to do.
Mm-hmm.
And given they were quite young children, they couldn't have made a name for themselves as, you know, big hunters or big leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And so we use clothing. That was one of the first signs, that was one of the first concrete signals that, oh, these people were adored by their society because their parents were important. And so
Mm-hmm.
they were even considered, like, to use a fashion term or to use a popular culture term now, they were the first Nepo babies, you know?
Literally, yeah.
And so I think fashion, the intersection of fashion in all other spheres of life, be it economics, history, philosophy, that's what I love about fashion. What I don't love about fashion is the iteration that we're currently in, and it's so evident here in Paris, where it's all about, the same three giant conglomerates making profit on top of profit on top of profit at the
Mm-hmm.
expense of artisans, at the expense of people in other countries making cheaper clothing, at the expense of creatives who used to have benefits and now are forced to freelance and just jump from check to check. I just think that, especially growing up in the Devil Wears Prada generation,
Right.
I think,
Where fashion editors were king.
exactly, I think the dream we were sold no longer exists. So I
No.
think that's why I say I'm also not a fashion person, because I don't see myself I don't see myself giving myself to the industry in that
Mm-hmm.
way. If I find another way to do what I love and still feel my integrity
Mm-hmm.
and also feel that I'm shown respect in my field, then I'll do it. But right now it's a numbers game. And at that point I should have been a mathematician or an economist.
Right.
You know?
Right. Right. Wow, that's such a beautiful way to look at it. So at this point in time, where do you see yourself then?
I mean, I'm still in the phase of figuring things out. I have one more year left of grad school, and I love the theoretical study of fashion. But it's a difficult world we live in, especially with AI and everything, of trying to pinpoint exactly what you want to do. In a year time, will the job that I'm currently thinking about, will that even exist in a year time? So I guess now I'm really just looking to vibe it out, take opportunities that come to me, not anything super concrete, but just to see what it is that I love and see how I can be myself in the industry that I've currently signed up for.
And see, that's the thing of life, you living life instead of life living you.
Exactly.
Like what we were just talking about earlier. So, that's a prime example of how he looks at things. And then, and the thing is, it's like, it may not happen tomorrow, it may not happen the next day, whatever. But I notice things always kind of work out for your benefit. And it's like a magnetic energy to you with opportunities like that. So I always say to Chris, I see you going really far. I see you being like an author or an historian of some sense, even not just within fashion, because I think that you look at fashion in a more philosophical,
absolutely
cultural standpoint, rather like, oh, I'm wearing ALD pants or shoes and I'm wearing this brand and whatever, even though you have an appreciation for it. I mean, we're still consumers at the end of the day. We have to wear clothes, but you choose well.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not. Within fashion theory, there's at least two different types of people. There's the person who can look at a photo of a Dior bag from 1963 and be able to tell exactly like who the creative director was, what their vision was at the time period, give you all the context around a specific fashion item. And I think those people are so smart. They're just absolute encyclopedias of information. But for me, it's more about using fashion as a lens to view and to kind of look at the human experience more generally. How can we use fashion as a lens to see where we're going socially, to see where we're going economically, to see just, what pace humans are doing. Because once again, what you put on in the morning is what you're trying to advertise to the world. So it's almost like every day when you get dressed, you're like giving your vote,
So what do you say how do you feel about people who, I'm really interested to know your take on like fast fashion and people who are crusaders against that, because there's a lot of people. I know that the understanding of like fast fashion as okay, it's not good, clothes are made faster, cheaper, there's labor stuff. Like, I'm not talking about that conversation. This is an underdeveloped conversation I think of particularly in France, where people feel that so I'm talking with my mouth full
Wow.
perks of eating. That's one of the little aspects of eating with Zoe.
Mm-hmm.
Lunch. Zoeats podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like for example, I was out with this guy,
Okay.
and I was like, and he was a fashion dude, and I was asking him like, what are your fashion icks? And he's like, oh, I hate fast fashion. Anybody who shops at like Zara or whatever, like, I can't stand it. Da 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 da. And I'm like, you know, while that is true, we should, when we purchase, we vote with our dollar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I understand his perspective and I understand the general conversation around that. But how do you feel about? But I feel like we pushed aside the people who may not be able to afford that or
Well,
may not
and
have the
that's
time to source like vintage fashion.
absolutely. And I think because I think a lot of the discourse around, anti-fast fashion, I think a lot of it is based in a fallacy and a lack of information because I'll be honest, like in Paris, if you go into, extreme luxury ready to wear stores, like if you go into the Balenciaga store on Saint Honore and
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at ready to wear clothing and you're feeling it with your hands, if I'm holding up a shirt and I can see the wall behind it, the quality there, it's
Or the stitching looks off, or there's
exactly
loose threads. Mm-hmm.
like the fast fashion. It's not that. I think a lot of the hate against fast fashion is just a pretentious kind of look at me game because at the end of the day, luxury ready to wear has as many, individual wears that Zara does.
Right.
There's probably a few Zara shirts that you could wash and rewear more times than a Balenciaga top before it would start disintegrating.
That's what I was saying. So, I made a concerted effort, like, okay, I bought into I drank the Kool-Aid, I bought into the hype, right? And I've kind of like had this journey over the last, I don't know, year or so, where it's like, okay, cool, like back in the day I used to always just wear like whatever was convenient, whatever, and I feel like um my style kind of just stayed at one place, and then I was like, okay, I really want to get if I really want to elevate myself, because I was leveling up in myself in all ways. I was like, okay, how can I elevate my style in a way that makes sense? So I was like, okay, well, let me save and go to these stores. So I would save up to go to like Acne or
Mm-hmm.
find people, have connected to give me to sample sales, whatever, right? And I would walk in. I'm like, this feels like Zara.
Mm-hmm.
This feels like I feel like I'm paying more for the same quality of stuff. Granted, there are a few pieces. There are exceptions to the rules, just like there are exceptions to the rule with fast fashion stuff.
Exactly.
I could go on Shein right now and find something that you would never even know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's not what I'm saying. But I guess like I would go into those stores and I'd be like, this is not worth it. And then at what point you're producing at the same amount
Exactly.
as
There's nine
like
collections a year.
exactly, like your ready to wear is coming out the same rate
Mm-hmm.
as Zara clothes. I'm not talking about the runway stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. I
So it's
mean,
like
even a lot of runway, like the only, even runway stuff is extremely cheaply made at a lot of brands because keep in mind, it's not like, and not to make it seem like I'm a hater on Balenciaga. I love the accessories there. I'm a customer there at some points. But just to use them as an example, it's
right,
not Balenciaga fighting for the integrity of itself as Balenciaga. It's Balenciaga at the, Balenciaga under the umbrella of Caring,
hmm
and Caring doesn't care what the quality is of Balenciaga.
exactly,
Caring doesn't care what the customer experience is, what the duration and longevity of their
right,
items are. They care about the people at Balenciaga sending them the numbers that they want to see.
right. And so for me, it's also become no, I get that. Like when I was shopping at my when I was shopping for my birthday shoes, I went into like Balenciaga, YSL, all those places, and I'm like, I could have just gone to Zara. I ended up
Exactly.
settling on the Aquazara shoes. Aquazara. I don't know how to say that. Sorry, mom, if you're watching. I don't know how to say the brand's name. She goes, if you can't say it, you don't wear it. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Hermes.
Huh.
um, but yeah, no, just back to my point. I was just saying that, like I feel like those brands, it's just made to like, yes, it is good quality, but at that price for 1,200 dollars or euro or whatever, it doesn't feel like
Mm.
what I would expect. Like I want to get a lifetime out of these shoes and I don't feel like I would from these
Mm.
brands. But if I say like, oh, I'm wearing YSL shoes, you think, oh, she doesn't participate in fast fashion in the
Mm.
same initially in the same way of you know Zara or Shein or
Exactly.
whatever. And even then, so I was going through the line of that, so I was like, okay, whatever. But then I came to a point where I was like, no, no, no. Let me look at quality. Let me
Mm-hmm.
look at composition. You know, lucky for me, well, not lucky for me. I prioritize this. I'm a big vintage shopper, so
Mm-hmm.
you know, I spend a lot of my time on Vinted. I find vintage pop-ups. You know, like that's what I like to do. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
fortunate enough where I can get really good quality clothes for really inexpensive. And yes, I have splurge items. Like this coat was a splurge item in the vintage sense because you know it wasn't €5 on
Mm-hmm.
a rack,
Yeah.
but you know, like it was still an
Mm-hmm.
investment, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But I'm fortunate enough to be in a space where I could do that,
Mm-hmm.
and hit my price points and not feel like I'm actively, you know, harming the planet. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I've come to a point now, or I've kind of traveled to the point where I was like, okay, let me just do all vintage. But then I'm spending so much on the back end doing repairs and getting things like my Prada
Mm-hmm.
shoes that got obliterated in Milan. They, you know, I had to resole them. I have to get them. You know, it takes a
Mm-hmm.
little more love and tender, and not a lot of people have
Mm-hmm.
that freedom to do that, right, with their
Well,
clothes.
and I think it's less about villainizing people at specific price points. I don't think that's the way to start the
Well,
conversation at all. I feel like it's about it's about having a culture of consumption at whatever price point that makes sense for the world and makes sense for the environment or human welfare,
mhm,
this, that, and the other. Like, I think that there's always the meme of the girl from Zara, or like the girl or guy who goes to Zara or goes online to Timu
mhm,
and just buys 18 things that they might not even ever wear.
mhm,
And there are extremely wealthy people who do the same thing at luxury fashion stores. I mean,
right,
the Kardashians wear things once and either put it in a warehouse archive or sell it again. And I
exactly,
think it's the same mindset of, I just need more. I can't wear the same outfit more than once. I think that's where the conversation needs to start.
right. And that's like one of my biggest icks. Now, special occasions, like obviously like a ball
Mhm.
gown, cool, go buy it one time.
Mhm.
I mean, you and I are not going to black tie events every weekend.
Mhm.
Hopefully soon. That's our goal.
Right.
That's our journey. But we're not going to black tie events every weekend. So it's like, sorry, let me hold the microphone. Let me not scream in your guys' ears. Um, like, you know, we're not going to those things. But I have a really big problem. Like, what if like every podcast I was buying something new?
Mhm. Well, it's
You
not.
know, like,
Mhm.
you know, people make comments, oh, you always wear the same thing. Well, it's like, no, I don't always wear the same thing. I mix things up in my wardrobe, but it's like I wear the clothes that I have because I have them. They're meant to be worn. They're meant to
Mhm.
be whatever. When things get holes, I fix them. When
Mhm.
things get whatever, I fix them. But I keep my
Well,
clothes.
and I'm not even one, like, I don't get like I'm not too familiar with like the manicure world. I don't get my nails done that often. I don't,
Mm-hmm.
I probably need to go get a manicure and get a clear coat. But I mean, it's a lot of like the hatred on people re-wearing outfits. It's like, you hang out with someone one day
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I love your nails." Imagine the next day you
You
come
had
see them
no
again
nails.
and they're like, "You're re-wearing the same nails." And you're like, "Well, yes, they haven't fallen off yet."
Mm-hmm.
And I think of your wardrobe the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You wear it until you can't wear it anymore. You don't have to wear it every single day, but if you have, an array of things that fit your style that you can mix and match,
Mm-hmm.
then there shouldn't be pressure, at least for everyday occasions, to go out and buy something new because you've already been seen in it.
Right.
And I think even celebrity culture feeds into that. I think, if you
Right.
see a celebrity wearing something different every day because brands are just begging them to put clothes on,
Mm-hmm.
I think, I think that filters down through social media and it makes people want to kind of have that experience.
Right.
And I'm not saying that celebrities should just wear the same thing every day, but I think people should be, if you're not in the fashion industry, you don't necessarily have this idea of, oh, like, most of these pieces are being loaned by the brand. Like, this
Mm-hmm.
person didn't go out and buy that, they're just wearing it so they can get their picture taken in it.
And then they give it back at the end of the day.
Because like a lot of celebrities, like when they're not being photographed, when they're at their vacation home with no paparazzi, they're wearing the same like
Exactly.
sweatshirts and jeans that
A
you
good
know
example of this would be like Zendaya with her. She always wears like the same Margiela tabbies.
exactly.
You see her photo just on a day to day. She's wearing the
hmm
same tabbies every single day,
hmm
and you know I think that's a good example to start with of like you don't need to be out in new things every day. You don't
exactly.
need to be whatever. Definitely treat yourself. We're not saying like just replace something when
hmm
whatever. Like you know your limits. You know what makes sense, but Like the fact that every single day you need a new outfit every single time. And you know what? I didn't realize that was a thing. In our circle, I think that we all kind of think alike. So I'd kind of been in this little bubble. But when I went back to the States, particularly like Atlanta, where it has that celebrity culture, but then they're just influencers or, which they are their own celebrity in their own right. Um, it really kind of gave me this bubble. They're like, oh, so you're not going to go buy an outfit? You're not going to go do it? No, why do I need to buy an outfit for this? We're just going to the club, girl. We're just going to da-da-da-da. It's not an occasion that warrants it. And then also I think that puts, in what's the word? Unintentionally puts emphasis on everything you do as something special, when there's some moments that are just meant to be present and they're just here as it is.
Well, and if clothing is our immediate means of expressing ourselves to the world, I also think it sends an odd message if you're wearing something different every time, because then it's like, who are you? You might have a similar aesthetic throughout, every single different thing that you wear, but at the end of the day, it's like, you're kind of changing your colors every single day. Like, I think I don't necessarily believe in an extremely rigid capsule wardrobe, but I do think there's something to be said about having like your classic, people talk about like my classic leather jacket that I wear sometimes, or the classic sneakers that I always wear, like, the bag that I usually bring to places.
Right.
I think there should be no shame in that, and there should be no shame in, if something works for you, it works for you. Right. And then it becomes a part of you. Like, I wear these sunglasses.
Well, just not these ones.
Well, true. I just replaced them. But sunglasses to the effect of these, I wear them just about everywhere I go. I don't need 18,000 pairs. And it's not seen as tacky. It's seen as, those are Chris's. They're his sunglasses.
It's a signature.
I don't need to wear a different wig every day in order to be seen as, you know what I mean?
And I feel like it puts a lot of pressure on you to keep up with the Joneses. And, yeah, so I have an interesting thought then. So because you think this way, you have your own very strong sense of personal style. I can look at something, and it's to the point where me and Angela, one of our mutual friends, were in Milan, and we went to the Dolce & Gabbana exhibition, and we're like, this is Chris. We would look at things and be like, this is Chris. Like, you have such a strong sense of personal style. How do you feel about that conversation, especially with social media, where everything is kind of just like the same portrait, they promote the same look, and that kind of becomes the mainstream? And I guess my question is, how do you feel about trends versus personal style versus chasing things, overconsumption? Like,
I mean, I think a lot of it is about knowing you and what your personal style is. Like, I have things that they're specific. It may be it a pair of shoes or a bag. Say I bought it at the time when it was super trendy. I'll sit on that purchase before I actually make it. I'll think about it for months, or at least long enough to where I know, like, this is something that, like, I'll wear once the trend dies. And there are plenty of things in my closet that were like a trend 4 or 5 years ago, but I wasn't wearing it for the trend, I was wearing it for me. And I don't care if the trend's dead. I don't care if someone walks up to me and says, oh, like, that's from 3 seasons ago. Well, yeah, I bought it 3 seasons ago.
Right. Like, okay. Sorry about that, y'all. I ran out of storage. But what was I saying? I was just saying fashion things. Whatever it was, the point is lost. The point is gone. I apologize for that. Technical difficulties that things tend to happen. Anyway, so kind of rebooting the conversation, I guess, from scratch. It's Fashion Week.
Yes.
Thoughts? Prayers?
I'm scared. I never particularly enjoy Fashion Week. I don't know I feel like the only people who actually enjoy Fashion Week are the celebrities that are invited.
You don't like Fashion Week?
Fashion Week for me is just it's a lot of partying. It's a lot of schmoozing. It's a lot of networking. It's not very low key. It's very it's every person you meet at a Fashion Week party is giving you their 30-second elevator pitch.
But you're in a different. You approach Fashion Week a little bit differently than me. Like, yeah, I like the parties because it's like, okay, there's always something to do, but I don't really go to the parties anymore. As well, I say that, but I do, because definitely not this Fashion Week, but the last one, we were definitely going to parties and stuff. But it's just inevitable. Like, there's just always something happening. For me, it's more like the showrooms. I like to experience the new brands. You know me, I like to get into the smaller niche brands. And so Rue de Temple, there's a lot of like pop-ups and showrooms and things like that, and that's like a really good area to like get into a level of fashion that's like these people don't have aspirations. Well, as far as I know, they don't have aspirations to be like the next Maison Margiela or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, but they really care. They really are cool, interesting people, and they're doing cool things. They're bringing their visions to light, and so that's kind of what I like to look for during Fashion
Mm-hmm.
Week. I mean, just in general around Paris, you know me, I'm always
Mm-hmm.
finding something, but
Yeah. Well, I think the like I will say the good thing about Fashion Week is not even the part that one would expect. Like the real creativity in Fashion Week isn't,
it's how to get into the
the
event
LV
specifically.
show or like
Mm-hmm.
the Dior show or whatever. It's the most like creativity that happens is the mixing and mingling that happens with the people that are behind the scenes. Like
Mm-hmm.
you meet someone who has a vision similar to yours, and you realize like you like think similar things about the industry or stuff like that. Like it's 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 never the play that goes on itself. It's always what happens in the intermission that I
Right.
find interesting.
Ditto. I cannot like for me like the fashion shows, the big fashion shows that everybody's going to. Yeah, I would have loved to go to the Pharrell one just because it's historic,
Mm-hmm.
like when his debut fashion show
Mm-hmm.
at for Louis Vuitton or whatever
Mm-hmm.
at the Pompidou.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that would be super cool to attend just because it's just history, but in general, those are not fun fashion shows to go to.
Yeah. Well, it's in like
You
the
can't even see anything.
mm-hmm.
We're not important, so we're all the way in the
Everyone's
back.
fighting for a seat.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's fighting for a shot. Everyone's fighting to have the piece of criticism that the brand reposts. Which isn't
Mm-hmm.
really criticism. It's just
An
you know,
observation.
yeah, it's just like explaining the collection and like throwing kind words out. Like so, yeah. I don't know. I don't know about Fashion Week. Fashion Week is kind of it's been diluted by other interests.
And what would those other interests be?
I mean, like I've already said, like money, but also like power, and I mean the biggest thing, attention.
Mm.
All the it's not as much about the clothing anymore. There are exceptions, but it's not about the clothing or like the actual concept itself. It's about who can who can scream the loudest at Fashion Week, who can cause the biggest commotion with their fashion show, what's going to be written about the most.
Do you feel like there's like a gimmick with a lot of fashion brands nowadays, like the popular ones?
Oh yeah, I mean there's a gimmick with popular fashion brands. There's a gimmick with unpopular fashion brands. The
Do you
only
think?
way to get social media attention is to have something that people will click on, and to have something that people will click on, you need a hook, and a hook at the fa- in the hook a hook in the fashion context always is some kind of gimmick inherently. Some of them are good, some of them are better than others. Like, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but there are a lot of small brands and some even large brands that have really thrived in making it an entire spectacle. Like I think of John Galliano's artisanal collection
Mm-hmm.
from I can't remember how many, like maybe I think it was his last artisanal collection for Margiela,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a show, but it was that was like a play, that was like an opera, and it wasn't to make noise. It was just the creator's vision. And I think a lot of fashion brands, it's like I think of Karl Lagerfeld Chanel for the last 10 years that he was at the helm of it, and it was every show at the Grand Palais, and it was just getting more contrived every single time, building an entire supermarket, building an almost seemingly functional
Or it feels like an
spaceship.
attraction,
It's yeah,
like you're going to Disneyland.
it's a trip to Six Flags.
Yeah.
Like it's not about the clothes, especially when I think of the Chanel shows, and whenever those ginormous sets, you it, the impression you get is that the clothes aren't the main event. The clothes are secondary to just the party that is surrounding you, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and I think that all comes down to they don't want press for the clothes, they want press for the brand.
Well, I've always said this for me. Once I really started like understanding a little bit how the industry works, especially how it works nowadays, at the end of the day, Fashion Week is just a trade show.
Yeah.
It's a giant trade show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, where given there are like multiple like Trenoy and things like that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just a giant trade show,
Yeah.
right? And so the point of this is to get your clothes into major retailers or into department stores or wherever, right? And so for me, the real Fashion Week and the real people who are doing that stuff, like they're for business and they're to really, um, who under, for better or worse, more or less, I'll say this, really appreciate the fashion, what's happening in the industry, are the people who are working the showrooms, people who really are about
Mm-hmm.
fashion. I mean, granted, there are press people there, so I
Mm-hmm.
mean that makes sense. But that's more just to, again, give a recap of the fashion. They're
Mm-hmm.
not really interpreting it. I'm not speaking personally on those people because I don't
Mm-hmm.
know how their interests, how, because I'm sure their interest varies in the actual collection at
Mm-hmm.
hand. Um, but the real fashion people who are really there for Fashion Week are not at the fashion shows.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like the big thing,
They're
like
at the
the
showrooms, yeah.
yeah, like no, like the people who, I mean, with very with very few exceptions, the people who should be attending fashion shows and who historically were the attendees of fashion shows. It's never the stakeholders in that brand. It's always them trying to grow the reach. It's never brands trying to, you know, like stick to the certain aesthetic and the clientele that they already have. You know, you used to think of fashion shows as there would be editors, stylists, journalists, and then the customers of the brand that would go to the show.
Right.
And that's to show the people who need to know that, like who need to see the people who need to see the collection. It was for them to be able to see the collection first, so they could do with it what they will. And now it's about inviting influencers who may have been, photographed in their clothing 1,800 times, but might not even personally own a single piece.
Mm-hmm.
It's about inviting them to come and post pictures of it on their TikTok, or to
Right.
do like the renegade in front of the Dior sign. And I just think that
Yeah.
it's just about growing the reach, and at what purpose, at what cost, just so they can sell more perfumes and small leather goods.
Do you think that influencers have the same kind of reach? Do you feel like the celebrity, like the old school celebrity, is becoming obsolete? Do you feel like the influencer is becoming the new celebrity?
I think it's just different markets. I think
How so?
the old school celebrities are still going to be like you think of. I don't consider Zendaya an influencer. I consider Zendaya like an old school celebrity.
Ditto.
Right? I feel like that's a fair take. And Zendaya, like it's not that Zendaya is going live on Instagram at every show she's attending, and she's not, just like posting every single thing that she sees,
Mm-hmm.
but she's her image through her just, general like public belovedness. It gets filtered through the different media outlets, and so I feel like for the social media user, kind of acting as a bystander to Fashion Week, you see the influencers themselves who are just posting everything on their story, and then photos from different publications saying like this was who was in the front row at the show.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they do have the same. I think it's similar. Like it's different styles, but it's all for the same platform at the end of the day.
Mm.
None of it's getting printed in the newspaper. You know what I mean? None of it's
literally
nothing's making CNN
right.
like nighttime news.
Right.
It's not. It's not anything like that. If that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. It makes complete sense. Okay.
So I don't know. I've even found myself. I kind of feel like there's not really a purpose for fashion shows anymore. I think especially with the.
I don't agree with that.
Well, there's not I think there could be a purpose for it, but I think it's not serving its
full potential.
It's not serving its full potential right now, because I mean, if you to take it back to fast fashion, if you see a Zara shirt, it's already for sale, because you're in the store or you just saw it online. You can click to buy it right then, and all it's doing is frankly harming these luxury houses by showing their collections 6 months prior to them actually being available in store, because there's going to be, by the time it's actually released to regular clients, there's been 18 dupes already.
Do you watch
far
Mina Lee?
Spread. Do I watch who?
Mina Lee.
I don't think so.
She literally talked on this exact topic. I'll link the YouTube video down below. But she talked about how this has been a consistent issue throughout the fashion industry, like the dupe industry, and how this has been a consistent problem since Fashion Week started, wherever it was, because people would come and they would draw sketches of the fashion, like they would draw sketches of the like
the
whatever
looks.
the looks. Sorry, I can't think of words now. This wine's starting to get to me. But they would draw. They drew illustrations of the looks as they were coming down the fashion, as they're coming down the runway. So it's like, it's not a fair argument to say that, because that's been going on in the fashion industry since the dawn of time. I do think that rather than showing, because back in the day, it used to be a showroom right? The fashion shows used to be the showroom, right?
Yeah.
And fashion shows used to be kind of structured a little different, where they weren't walking on the catwalk. It was more of like a come, stand, observe, look at the stitching, look at the whatever. And I think as the format changed, evolved for fashion shows, I think that there developed a need for showrooms where they could have that personal, where it became where the showrooms now are the old school fashion shows. You know what I mean?
Well, but I think it really. Sorry, continue.
No, I was just saying that this has become more of a marketing scheme as we've developed photography, because fashion shows were essentially coming around before photography existed, right? So as fashion, as we've developed photography and there's been media and there's become a more worldwide interest outside of because the fashion community used to just be a niche, whatever, for the privileged who can afford to wear it, where now it's become such a huge industry. Now there's a need for a way to, it's just become an extra marketing platform for these places. So I do think that there's a need, but it's just not the need that most people think that it serves.
Yeah.
There is, sorry, go ahead.
No, but I do think that I think, luxury fashion houses are shooting themselves in the foot in a sense, because the way the system is right now, or at least I don't know if it's at the expense of the fashion houses, their consumers, the people who actually shop from them, or both of them at the same time. You see, a show happens and a runway show happens. People post about it all over social media. All the looks are available. Not even 3 days later, depending on the time of the year, something from that collection is already being styled on celebrities. It's already making its rounds. 6 months later, when it's actually available in store, even the consumers of the fashion houses feel like, well, so-and-so's, this has been photographed on people for months. So, you can't really get mad at people for thinking that everything's constantly out of date, because the bar has moved so much.
But then that's my thing. If you feel that way, then A, you may not really be invested in the brand that you say you are, or B, you really need to develop your own personal style.
Yeah.
Right? Because it wouldn't matter when it came out. There's stuff from, like you said, 5, 6, 7 years ago I would still wear today because it's my personal style. For me, I'm always going to be wearing leopard print. It doesn't matter what's trend. It's really trendy right now. I will always wear leopard print. I was wearing leopard print 10 years ago. I will probably be wearing it 10, 20, 30 years from now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like a staple in my wardrobe, right? So it's okay, develop your own personal sense. Pick and choose. You don't need to wear everything. If you feel like things are already dated, to me, it's a symptom of a problem, right? I understand that not everybody's invested in it, but I'm talking about the people who say they're really invested in fashion, not just the general consumer, right? Or the average consumer. You need to then go look at more niche brands, or B, you need to develop, your own personal sense of style. And it's with Instagram nowadays, I understand that there's a lot of BS you need to cut through, and I get that. If I was in Minneapolis, I probably would have a really hard time finding niche brands because it's just not there yet. There is no fashion industry. Well, there is, but shout out to my grandma who walks Minneapolis Fashion Week. Love you, Nana. But there is no.
And you bring up a really good point. Something that I am really, a strong proponent of these days, especially with now that at the current moment, it's even becoming evident that these same fashion houses, the same luxury fashion houses, they're swapping designers left and right. It's gotten a bit incestual. They're all kind of copying each other as well. I think even within the luxury community, and sales in 2024 have shown this, even regular consumers are shopping less from these luxury brands because they're all just copying each other. And I think that it's really empowering as a consumer to know, because if you have the means to go out and buy something from a luxury fashion house, then you certainly have the means to go, show interest in, Minneapolis Fashion Week. See what designers, where you're from or wherever you are, support those people, because that's something, especially if you're someone who likes to be different and you're someone who likes to be on the cutting edge. That's something that, people in Paris will, they never might have heard of it,
Right.
Even when I was just in Athens, I made a strong point to find, of course you're not really expecting to find individual boutiques of this is an Athens brand or a Greek brand.
Right.
But there's always, in most cities, in most large cities, you'll find a concept store or something like that. That has an array of local designers. And I think that's where, people could find a lot more bang for their buck in spending money, because it's not going to be something that's shown on social media over and over and over and over and over again too. And I think that's a really helpful way to feel more attached to your personal style and to make it feel more like you and to kind of be reflective of your experience, especially having a story to tell with your clothing beyond just this is this brand and this collection.
Right.
Like say this is this is a brand that I saw like when I was in this city and I really enjoyed them and I talked to
the owner and
exactly.
whatever. And yeah, no, that's what. But I also think that maybe since we're such big fashion lovers, I think that we may think that's a lot easier said than done because people who don't care enough won't. And so I'm trying. I guess my argument is like, I guess at the end of the day, find what works for you. Find what works for you. Find the pacing that works for you. But at the end of the day, it takes wear what you like, and you will always be in style.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter what I'm doing, what I'm whatever. I wear whatever I like.
Exactly. Don't shop. Don't shop for others. Don't shop for your Instagram feed. Shop for you, and whenever you can, shop as local as possible.
Right. Live, laugh, love.
Exactly.
Eat, pray, love.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But anyways, so typically in this portion of the podcast, how are we doing on time, by the way? What are we at?
We're at 17 minutes here.
Okay, so typically at this portion of the podcast, we would do. Oh, my bang, y'all. My hair is messed up today, so don't say nothing. At this portion of the podcast, we would be doing advice. But again, another week, another instance of none of y'all asking me for advice. So please DM my Instagram at Zoeats Podcast. Send voice notes asking for advice on life in France, any questions you may have for me. And I'll also throw it to my guests, but any questions you have for me, because I would love to answer them. I would love to get to know you guys and engage with y'all in any way possible. With that said, since we don't have any questions for the advice segment, I thought I would let you get in the hot seat for a little bit, and we would do your fashion icks / hot takes.
Like fashion icks?
Yeah.
It depends. I mean, once again, there's always a person who can pull off anything.
Okay. Starting with your political answer.
I'll say this is my fashion ick, and I've gotten really like this. My biggest fashion ick is sneakerheads who treat their shoes like they're infants. Shoes are made to be the barrier between ourselves and the dirty ground in whatever city we're walking in. If you are a person who is looking down at your like white sneakers or your $5,000, Nikes, whatever, that are limited edition, if you're like getting scared of every scuff mark that you have and you're like, oh my gosh, like I need to carry around like a wet wipe with me to make sure that my precious babies don't get dirty, that's not shoes. You know what I mean? Don't
wear them.
Get a gold watch at that point.
Right.
Like, shoes are meant to be worn and they're meant to touch the ground, so stop caring so much about them. Shoes are meant to get beat up. Bags are meant to get beat up. Do
you carry that same sentiment with people with Birkin bags who carry the little
I love
bags?
it. I love what are the sisters who run the row? What are they? Mary-Kate and Ashley.
Yeah.
Them and their beat up Birkins. That's a bag that they've been using. You can tell that they're not. Don't idolize the items that you buy. You buy an item as an accessory to you. You're not the accessory to the item. You shouldn't be, nothing you buy should be put on an altar. And I'll stand on business for that.
Period. I agree with that. That's a good hot take. I feel like that applies to anything. If I feel like I can't, obviously there are things that I want to take care of, but like I'm still going to wear it. Yeah.
And you can take care of it. Like, it's like, you can be diligent, like, oh, like make sure like I'm not gonna like break a heel or something like that.
I'm gonna cuss the person out that rides their scooter over my foot, or
like,
the 4-year-old kid that rides their scooter over my foot on the sidewalk.
Exactly. If I'm at an Italian restaurant wearing a nice white sweater, I'll be a little extra careful. Like I'll put a napkin as a bib, whatever I need to do to protect my clothing.
Right.
But like treating any scuff mark as a knife to the chest is, I think it's contrived. I think, you know what I mean? I think it's not the point. That's clothing is supposed to protect us from the outside world.
We're not supposed to protect it.
Yeah. You're supposed to protect it, but don't don't cherish it like a child. Objects come and go. You're here. So
We come and
protect
go as
you.
well.
We go as well, but we last a lot longer than most tank tops.
Especially white ones.
I'm telling you.
Well, any other fashion takes? Any fashion hot takes?
I can't think of any.
Okay.
What about you?
Fashion hot take. Okay, this isn't as much of like a clothing thing, but it's a personality thing.
Okay.
It really gives me the ick. Anybody who makes people feel bad about their self-expression.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a big person about quality. I won't make you feel bad about it, but I definitely am someone where I will search to the ends of the earth if it means that I'm going to find something about quality. No matter the price point. I don't care if it's from Shein or whatever. I mean, I don't support the company, but I don't care, right?
Yeah.
If it's good quality, it's good quality at the end of the day. But I can't stand people who like make people feel bad for like wearing skinny jeans or still wearing whatever. Oh my gosh, like when I was dating this guy and this other guy who I swore off a fashion man. Okay, I swore off creatives and fashion men. If you're in the creative industry or a fashion man, please don't hit me up. I don't want to know you. No, I'm just kidding. But anyways, he was like, yeah, you know, I can't stand. It gives me the ick if I see a girl like we pull up to a date and she's wearing skinny jeans, or it gives me the ick like if she's wearing like Jordans or whatever. I'm like, who cares? She feels comfortable enough to. She feels confident when she leaves the house. This person feels confident. Like I can't stand that. That's like my biggest ick. Like people who are like, I can't stand anybody who's not dressing for the current trend.
I mean, yeah, and it's pretentious.
Yeah.
It's adding another layer. It's not your wealth. Now it's not even your looks anymore. Now it's not even your hair. Now it's literally like the clothing that you wear. Like I just think,
right,
especially women, I think are judged enough on so many levels. You don't know, if you don't know someone well enough to know the deep intricacies of their life experience and what they're going through, don't comment on what they're wearing. You don't know how they arrived at their style. They would say the same thing about you probably.
Right. When I'm here, well, I don't even think I'm that stylish, but when I'm here, people are like, "Oh, you got cute style." People in Minnesota be like, "What are you wearing, girl?"
And also,
meanwhile, they're wearing flannels and a whatever shirt and a beer stained, t-shirt. What are you wearing? You look like a Mormon. Okay, and fine.
Let's add some historical contextualization to this. Whoever the most well-dressed person on the earth is today, the most well-dressed person from 200 years ago would think they were wearing rags.
Literally.
Like, all of us look dumb because we invented clothing. So none of it's that deep. Wear what you want to wear. Right.
As long as you feel confident.
It doesn't confident matter. Or comfortable or both.
Yeah. My thing is just if you're going to wear it, wear it with confidence. I don't care if you're going to wear one of the middle thong swimsuits. Wear that. Wear them comfortably. Wear your little hoochie shorts. I wear hoochie shorts. Who cares? But wear it with confidence. That's another thing. If you're going to wear it, wear it. My biggest pet peeve is you look good, right? Your outfit may not be my style, but you look good, but you're not wearing yourself with confidence. That just gives me the ick immediately.
That's fair.
Don't put it on if you're not going to wear it with confidence.
Yeah.
And granted, not everybody has to work for it, and they might be testing their boundaries. I get that. I respect it. Fake it till you make it. Wear it with confidence. I decided to put this on in the house. I don't care. When we went to, what was it? Not La Perouse. What was it? Where I was wearing the sweatpants?
Oh, gosh. I can't remember.
Hotel Amour.
Yes.
We went to Hotel Amour.
Hotel Grand Amour.
Grand Amour, yeah. We went there, and I was literally wearing a tracksuit and Ugg boots.
Ugg boots.
Ugg with tracksuits. And I still felt like one of the flyest people in there. You wear it with confidence.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter. It literally does not matter. So that's like a big, big ick of mine. Like, it doesn't matter what you're wearing. But
that's fair.
Like the people who are wearing the Roblox t-shirts at 26 with the cargo pants jeans, they look like they're 14 but they're actually 28. They wear that with confidence, and you cannot tell them elsewise, and I respect that.
They look fly in their community.
Exactly. Exactly. And I respect
that's what it's about.
The heck out of it. It may not be my style, but I respect it.
If you're dressing for everyone, you're dressing for no one.
Literally that. Literally that. And people are literally having I feel like there's a renaissance right now of people who are like kind of turning again, like they're like, oh, you dress like a Pinterest person because it feels soulless. It feels like people are starting to recognize like it doesn't feel like sorry, we're outside. There's alarms. There's life here.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels soulless. It
Mhm.
feels like there's nothing to it. They're like I literally watched a video the other day of this guy and he was like, yeah, use Pinterest as a base point, but add your own swag to it, add your own whatever.
Mhm.
And I do respect not everybody has the time or the energy to really think about that. So obviously, like, who cares at the end of the
But
day?
even-
Like, don't listen to us. But
if you love like your Stanley Cup aesthetic or whatever,
stand on that.
exactly, like do it. Like
Stand on that.
You don't need dress for
But those
dress for yourself and dress for yourself so you can feel comfortable in your community. Don't dress in order for you to feel comfortable for people who are just going to hate whatever you're wearing regardless. Because if whoever's judging you based on your wearing, if they're not paying your bills, if they're not waiting in your bed when you get home at night, and even then, half the time, you don't need to give a damn what they think.
Every dude that I've dated has hated the way I dress.
Mm-hmm.
Every dude that I've dated has hated the way, like, not hated. They're like, you're cute. They're like, you have cute style, but why don't you dress like this? And then they pull out like cargo pants and a baggy T-shirt and Jordans. I'm like, okay, well, I'll do that, but like that's not my style. But like every dude that hates the way that I dress, but I know I'm fly as hell. You know.
Period.
So, anyways, well, that's it for the advice segment. I don't mean to cut us off. I know we were having a good conversation, but I don't want it to run too long.
No problem.
My weekly recommendation. So I have two. So last Sunday, I went to the Tems concert in Paris. And oh my gosh, my camera's about to die. I went to the Tems concert in Paris, and I recommend the songs Crazy Tings, Love Me Jaja, and Get It Right. And I think Get It Right's from her new album, and Love Me Jaja, so good, obsessed. 10 out of 10 recommend. Wrapping this up quickly because my camera's about to die, but Chris, thank you so much for joining me. I had so much with having lunch with you. We ate the food. I rated 10 out of 10. The salad was so good, and this bread was so good. I couldn't even talk. I was stuffing my mouth this whole time.
I'll give it a 9.5.
9.5? Okay. I also give the ambiance a 10 out of 10 because we had the terrace by ourselves, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
9.5 just for the weather, if that counts.
The weather sucks. We were literally just complaining about the weather too. But anyways, thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you. Bye.